Hey amazing creatives, welcome back to the channel, and this is an exciting video. Why? Now the creative process for me was fun because there was a lot of anticipation, there was a lot of what am I going to get it? Am I going to get it? Now if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean while I was drafting out this pattern, I had to go through two patterns. The third pattern I was like, I got it right. And why did I get it right? Because I was bent on getting it right. So I did not give up after the first pattern, I did not give up after the second pattern. And yeah, the universe started to bless me with the third pattern. I got it right. So when I got it right, I decided to place on my fabric and cut. For the first time, I am making a top that has a zip at the front. If you have been watching my channel, you know that this is the first time something like this is happening. The way I created the boning channel for this top, my first time also. And it was simple. You're going to be learning new things today. On this video, you're going to be learning new things, so stick around. If you're a beginner, please don't be scared. I'm just going to make sure I break down the whole process in the beginner-friendly manner that you yourself will be able to understand. I'll provide the measurements you need. I'm just going to put them in step by step, so you're going to get it, okay? And another thing you need to know is that this video is divided into two. This is going to be the pattern drafting process, and I decided to make it this lengthy because I want to take my time and explain all of them to you, the process, so you don't get it wrong at all. And then after this one drops, today's time, the sewing version is going to be available to you. So thank you for joining me, and before you go into the pattern drafting, don't forget to click on the subscribe button. If you're seeing this face for the first time, go ahead, click on the subscribe button. In case you're interested in watching my videos, there's going to be a notification bell you need to put on, so when I upload a video and you're not online or you're not available, notification just pop up on your screen whenever you come back online. You can hurry and come and watch and recreate with me, okay? Thank you so much, and you guys, without no further ado, let's hurry into the pattern drafting. So these are the measurements needed for this top. Go ahead and take this measurement on your body and mark them down on a paper and get your pattern ready. So I have my pattern paper here, and the step one is for me to mark my zip allowance, and that is going to be 1 inch. So from this point, I'm just going to go in by 1 inch, and that is just going to serve as my zip allowance. So you need to take the step because this top obviously has a zip allowance and you need that. So I'm just going to go ahead and rule a starting line, and that starting line is just for where my shoulder measurement will be sitting. So please go ahead and do this, and let's go into step two. Step two is for us to mark the vertical measurements, and these are going to be called points. So for the first point we'll be marking is the shoulder. Just go ahead and divide your shoulder measurements by 2 and mark this on your starting line. You guys, the measurements are provided on the screen. Go ahead and follow and get your measurements. So now that I have divided my shoulder measurement and marked from this point, the next thing for me to do is mark 1 inch down for slope. You know your shoulder is not straight, it's slopey, so go ahead and drop your shoulder by 1 inch. And this is the slope. I'm just going to label everything out for you. So now I'm just going to connect the slope to the neckline. And you know the 1 inch before this line is for zip, so you take your measurement after the line, you mark that in. So for the next step, I have to find out what my round armhole is, and once I have that measurement, I'm just going to divide my round armhole by 2 and mark that down from the slope. So how to get your round armhole is on the screen. Go ahead and take that measurement, divide whatever number you get by 2 and mark this down from your slope. So you guys remember I divided my shoulder measurements by 2 and I marked it on this point. I'm just going to confirm what I have here on the armhole point, if it's the same width with my shoulder, and yes, you can see I have 7.5 and it corresponds to my shoulder measurement. So all I have to do now is connect the armhole point to the slope like this with a straight line, and I'll also rule an horizontal line. That is where the armhole curve will be sitting. Since we are marking the vertical measurement, we're going to go ahead and mark the next point, which is the bust point. So from this line, remember this is the shoulder line. From the shoulder line, I'm just going to go down by 10.5. You can see where my tape is sitting, right? I'm going down by 10.5, and that is for my bust point. So I'm just going to label it out. The next point I'll be marking is my under bust point, and I'm just going to place my tape from the shoulder, from this line, and go down by 13.5, and that is my under bust point. So you guys are going to be finding out why we need our under bust point, because we're not going to be marking out the dart, we just need it. You guys will find out. The next point is the waist point, and this is going to be 16 inches. I'll place my tape still from the shoulder, go down by 16 inches, and that is going to be for my waistline. And the last point we need to mark down is the length of the top. So yes, we need to indicate the length of the top, and that is the next thing I'll be marking. So I'll place my tape here from the shoulder, and I'll go down by 21 inches. That is how long I want my top to be, especially because this is the front. So the center front is going to be 21 inches long. So these are called vertical measurements. They are core points. We need to take our points first before we divide our horizontal measurements by 4. So yes, we're going to be marking our horizontal measurements. That's dividing all measurements by 4. So the first is the bust point. Obviously, we're going to divide our round bust by 4 and mark that down on our bust line. So once I have that indicated, I'll take the line up to the armhole. Like this, I'm taking it straight to the armhole. Now I'm just going to go ahead and divide my round under bust by 4. So in case you don't understand this division and what is happening, I have a very detailed video on how to take body measurements and how to divide. So I will advise you to go watch my episode 2 on Back to the Basics. I'll divide my round waist by 4. And I'm just going to mark that down on the waistline. And then I'll connect this to the underbust. And you guys, the measurement I marked on my waistline, that is the measurement I'll be marking on my length. So on the length, I'm just going to divide my round waist again by 4 and mark that down on the length. So practically what I just did is duplicate what I have on my waist measurements. That's my waistline. That is what I'm marking on the length. So on the step 4, all we have to do is add allowance and also create our front armhole. So the allowance I'm just going to add on my pattern is 1 inch, and I'm adding this on all points. So 1 inch on all points. That is the allowance I'm adding. So if you're bigger than my size, you want to go ahead and mark 1.5, okay? So but I am marking 1 inch, and yes, if you are my size, you're good to go with 1 inch. So now we have to create the front armhole, and to do that we are going to look for the middle point of the armhole. I'll place my tape on the armhole. I marked down 8 inches. I'll divide that 8 inches by 2 by folding my tape like this, and then I'm just going to mark the middle point like this, which is 4. Now from that 4 inches, I'll go in by half an inch. So from the middle point, I'm just marking half an inch in. So now I can create the front armhole with my curve ruler. So yes, right now I'm just going to place my curve ruler like this from the half an inch in, and I'll connect and also connect to the slope. And you guys, this is how to create your front armhole. So if you're bigger than my size, from that middle point you want to go in by 0.75 and not 0.5, okay? So I'm just going to write this down, 0.5, and if you're bigger than my size, 0.75. So the next step, which is step 5, is for us to create the front neck line. And to do this, we're going to be marking the neck width, and the neck width for this top is 3.5 inches. So that is how wide my neckline is going to be. So I'll mark 3.5 inches, and note that the neck width for the front and the back is always the same. So we're going to be marking this also on the back pattern. But yes, I have my 3.5, and now I'm just going to connect the 3.5 on the neck width to my underbust. So this is my underbust point, and I'm just going to take my long ruler and connect my neck width to the underbust like this. You guys, you can see that the top we're trying to recreate has this kind of V at the front neckline. So that is what we're creating right now. So, and I'm just going to extend the zip out like this because the rest are cancelled. From the shoulder to this part, it's cancelled. We're not using it, and this is the only zip allowance we'll be using. Now step 6 is for us to indicate the nipple to nipple. So yeah, you guys, I almost cut out this pattern without doing this part, and then I realized, and what I did was tape back my pattern, and now I'm just going to mark 4 inches in, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 8 inches, and divided by 2 gives you 4. So that's what I'm marking. Make sure you place your tape from after the line for the zip allowance, and then you go in and mark your nipple to nipple. So once I'm done doing that, I'm just going to connect the 2 lines and then go ahead and cut out my pattern. You guys, this is the front pattern, and wasn't that very easy? So please let me know in the comment section if getting to this particular point was easy for you. Let me know in the comment section, and please watch carefully the part that I am cutting out. You can see that my zip allowance from the underbust down is still available, and I'm just cutting every other thing out. And this is the front pattern. Now what we're going to do is separate the pattern from the underbust. That is step 7. So because of we're going to be adding boning to this top, we need to separate the front pattern. But before we do that, I'm just going to extend my nipple to nipple to my waistline and my length. So that's what I'm doing. I'm still marking the nipple to nipple and making sure that I place my tape after the line for the zip allowance. So I'll extend it back to the underbust. And now before you cut your pattern out, please make sure you label it out. So I'm just indicating that we're cutting it out, but before then I have to label out so I don't get it mixed up. So please, so you don't get your pattern mixed up, label out your pattern, okay? And then when you're cutting this from the underbust line we indicated. You're going to be cutting out this pattern, separating it into 2. So we're going to be dividing this again from the nipple to nipple line we marked. We're just going to divide it again into 2, and now we have 3 patterns. This is the center front, this is the side front, CF, SF, and this is my front pattern. Now step 8 is for us to slash and spread the upper part. So we're going to keep this part aside, and this is the upper part of the top, right? So what we're going to do is mark the middle point of the shoulder. I'll place my tape on the shoulder. I'll find out the middle point by dividing this into 2. So you see me folding my tape into 2, right? I'm just going to mark the middle point. And now I'm just going to use my ruler to connect this middle point to this point here. That's the nipple point on my bust line. I'm connecting like this straight. And now I'm just going to slash this open. So please, when slashing, make sure you don't cut this totally off. When you get to the shoulder, at least 1/4 inch in, you stop. So you can see where I'm going to stop, because this, what we're doing right now, is not supposed to affect the shoulder. So yes, when you get to this point, you stop, and then you bring in a fresh pattern paper. This is going to enable us spread this pattern. So this is I brought in a very little pattern paper, very small, and I'm just going to spread this by 3 inches. So make sure you spread for either 2 to 3 inches, depending on how much you want. So you can see that on the top we're trying to recreate, we have a pleated part at the nipple to nipple side. So yes, that is what I just did, and I'm spreading by 3 inches. So you make sure you spread by the amount you want to pleat. I just want to pleat in 3 inches, and that is what I just did, spread by 3 inches. And once I am done spreading, I'm just going to trim. And you guys, this is how the upper part is going to be. This is how we're placing it on the fabric to cut. And as you can see, I have 3 inches spread. So these are the patterns I'll be using for the front part, and let's go ahead and create the back pattern. So you guys, this is my pattern paper. I went ahead to draw out everything I need. This is my shoulder slope. I have my bust point, I have my under bust point, and I have my shoulder, just as we did for the front. So I didn't want to take much time. That is why I did this off the camera. But here I have all points indicated, and I also have the length of the top here. Now the next thing I'm just going to do right now is mark the neck width. I told you guys we're going to be using the same neck width, right? The 3.5 on the front. So that's what I'm marking here. And I'm just going to mark 1 inch down for the neck depth. And I'll connect both points together with the curve. We just created the back neckline. So once I have the neckline indicated, I'll just go ahead and divide my round bust by 4 and mark this down on the bust line. Then I'll connect this to the armhole. I'll move over to the under bust. I'll divide my round under bust by 4. Measurements are on the screen, guys. I'll mark this down and then I'll connect this to the bust line. I'll move over to the waist, which is the length. I'll divide my round waist by 4 and I'll mark this down on the length. I'll connect this to the under bust. So once I am done, I'm just going to add 1 inch allowance on the side, just as we did for the front. So I'll go ahead and indicate my 1 inch on all points. Exactly how we did the front, okay? Please don't be confused. These are the same steps. And once I have that done, I'm just going to label that this is 1 inch allowance. And then we have to mark the middle point on the armhole because we need to create the armhole for the back. And to do that, you have to fold your tape into 2, get the middle point. And from the middle point, I'll create my back armhole curve like this. And yes, now we have to mark the nipple to nipple we marked on the front. We have to mark this down on the back. My nipple to nipple, like I said, is 8 inches. Divided by 2 gives you 4. And that is what I'm marking on the bust line, on the under bust, and on the length. And I'm just going to connect all with a straight line. You guys, we're going to be cutting out pattern, and this is how I'll be doing this. I'm going to be separating the back pattern also from the under bust. Okay, we're going to be doing that. And yes, just look at where I'm cutting out, and we're going to be doing the next step together. So I'm just cutting out the armhole. I'll move to the neckline, and I'll also cut out the shoulder. I'll leave 1/4 inch on the pattern. Now this part here is going to be cut on fold. That is what I'm indicating. We're going to be folding our fabric into 2, and we're going to be getting a close edge for our center back. But what I'll do now is divide this pattern by 2 from the under bust. So this is the under bust line, and I'm dividing this by 2. And I'm just going to label this out also, the side back. So when I divide from the nipple to nipple line, I'll know which sits where, okay? Make sure you label out your pattern. Please do that. So you guys, we have come to the end of the pattern drafting. The sewing version is going to be available to you guys very soon. Please draft out your pattern, label them out. Please label them out so you don't use the wrong side for another side. Okay, to avoid those mistakes, label out your pattern. And yes, draft out your pattern, and you guys, in the next 1 or 2 days, like I said, the sewing version is going to be available to you. Thank you so much for sticking with me from the beginning to the end. You are so much appreciated. I love you guys so much, and I'll be seeing you on the sewing version. Bye for now.